Good afternoon, everyone. At least good afternoon here in New Jersey, where we're coming to you live from our Gator studio. I'm Mike Huber, Director of Technical Support, and I have Dave White here with me. He's in the running for best sales rep in the New England market this year.
So my mother says so.
Vote for him at least, right? Unfortunately, I asked for Vanna White, and they gave me Dave White, but hey, that's life.
You got to be specifics, man. You got to be very specific.
All right, so first of all, a little housekeeping. We're using this Demio platform. So Ryan, throw up that graphic. If you go where that blue arrow is pointing, you can go to the full screen mode, and that's going to give you the best viewing experience here today. If you go where you see that little circle rotating, that little arrow pointing to the line, that opens your chat window. We love questions. You can play Stump Dave here today.
That's easy. No, it's more, can you stump Mike?
So open up that chat window and fire away with any questions. We also have a great raffle going this year, giving away some prizes, right?
Yeah, some fantastic prizes. We got a Yeti cooler. We have some Amazon gift cards. We have a 20-ounce Yeti mug. That's a good first cup of coffee for the day.
Actually giving away 5 of those every week.
Well, that'll last me until the first step of the day. And then cookies. Everybody loves cookies, right?
Yeah, nothing better than eating an entire box of cookies all by yourself.
Yeah, share your
right,
cookies
Dave?
when you win them. Share them.
All right, so hey, fantastic prizes. At the end of this presentation, you'll get kicked to our raffle registration page. You can sign up to win these great prizes. And speaking of winners, we've got all the winners from last week to announce, right?
Yes.
We've got Tanner Simon, who's the winner of our Yeti Hopper Backflip Cooler from River Valley Landscapes down in Kentucky.
And for those who won that first cup of coffee, the Yeti 20-ounce Rambler, we've got Chris Weininger. I apologize if I mispronounce your name. He's from Premier Lawn and Tree Care up in Indiana. We got Michael Hare over in Ollinger Brothers in Pennsylvania. We got Bill Beckler from Beckler Landscape and Design out in Ohio. Jean-Jacques from Jeunesse Concrete up in sunny Maine. And also Alan Evans from St. Catherine's Building Supplies in Ontario, Canada.
All right, and Angela Stewart from Illinois Brick Company in Illinois, makes sense, and Jacob Traum from High Prairie Landscape Supply in Wisconsin are walking away with the $50 Amazon gift cards.
And we've got 2 lucky winners of the Insomnia cookies. Remember to share Anthony Erickson Perez from Morris Brook and Stone here in New Jersey. We also have Dan Knoll from We Worka Landscape in Virginia.
We Worka, huh?
We Worka. There's
Sounds
no
like
lazy ones there.
Sounds like what we've been doing here, setting up the studio to make sure we can give you a great educational and informative presentation. We want to make this fun for you, put a lot of effort into setting up a virtual studio to broadcast these events, and we appreciate you guys tuning in to watch.
Yeah, for those of you who are not aware, we built the studio down here, and a lot of work was put into it. When you walk in, there's a lot of good, positive, creative energy as soon as you walk in. Long hours between Lou, Mike, and Ryan put in a lot of long hours to really build this program, so thank you very much.
All right, so we're going to get into the topic of today's presentation, which is Xtreme Edge. Xtreme Edge is really exciting. What is it, Dave?
That's an edge restraint. It's really in response to what we're seeing in the marketplace for the bases, the hybrid chipstone base that's come out.
Right. These permeable bases, the hybrid chip installation method for pavers is becoming more and more popular, and plastic edge really just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, particularly with the chipstone base where you can't put that spike in all the way in a nice solid base.
Right, we're going to roll a quick video to introduce you to the Xtreme Edge, and then we'll go over all the features and benefits. So roll that video for us, Ryan. All right, well, that looks like a pretty good product, doesn't it, Dave?
Absolutely, that's fantastic.
What really sticks to me is that 3D microfiber mesh. That seems like a great idea, doesn't it?
Yeah, what is all that fancy talk we're hearing in the marketplace?
All right, well, hey, we all know concrete, you reinforce concrete with rebar, right?
Yep.
if you're going to put fiber into concrete, all of our competitors, and most concrete with fiber, is only a single monofilament fiber, just like a single stick of rebar. That works great if the crack happens across that fiber, but what if it happens a 1/4 inch away?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're really not getting any support. So this 3D microfiber mesh matrix from Alliance, which you can see in the bottom left corner there, it might not look like much on that photo, but as you mix, it's actually going to expand into a 3D mesh matrix and provide support throughout that edge restraint structure. So that fiber is really a key point to the Alliance Xtreme Edge.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So what we've heard about polymeric sand, but what does polymer modified mean with concrete? What does that got to do with it?
Well, concrete gets really hard, right? But we can improve concrete by adding polymers to it. We can reduce the amount of water we have to put into the mix. There's our studio dog jumping in. We can actually improve the performance of it. We can make it easier to mix. We can make it more flexible. So that polymer is really a fantastic addition to the Xtreme Edge.
Yeah, that really leads to the continuous lateral support, the freeze thaw. That really leads to the features and benefits of what this really offers.
Right, we're using this as hardscape edge restraint. So we want to make sure that it's a long-lasting, durable edge restraint for that hardscape project. It's not going to fall apart or crack and crumble or disintegrate. So we're going to really have the edge over traditional concrete.
Sure, sure. So even if and when it cracks, it still has that support.
Exactly. So hey, you might get cracking. You're actually pretty much guaranteed to get cracking, right? There's 2 types of concrete, cracked and gonna crack. And Xtreme Edge is no exception. Fortunately, all that additive, all the fiber that we add to it, it's going to make sure that it doesn't crack and fall apart, disintegrate. You're going to have a long-lasting edge restraint that still provides that resistance to lateral movement, whether it cracks a little bit or not.
One of the exciting things about working for Alliance is the support that we have. We have a lab up in Canada that not just goes through all the technicalities of the products that we have, but it also compares to what else is out there in the marketplace. So we've come up with some pretty interesting facts, right?
Yeah, I mean, they do some amazing work up there, not only developing the products, but testing them, making sure that we're putting a product out there that has definite benefits over what exists on the marketplace today.
Sure.
And this product is twice as strong as traditional concrete mix and twice as fast to set up.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, they're both great benefits. Add in a little bit more flexibility from that polymer. It's just easier and faster to install. So you're going to get better results using Xtreme Edge than you would with that bagged concrete.
Now, it's funny. You look at this third bullet point and it says more flexible. What's that got to do with concrete? It sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah, concrete's not very flexible.
Right.
Xtreme Edge is no exception. It's still not very flexible, but it's definitely got a little bit more give to it than your traditional bagged concrete mix.
Sure. As we move into the demonstration, we're going to show this fourth bullet point, how it's easier and faster to install.
Yep, it's a great benefit versus that bagged concrete mix.
Sure.
Coverage, hey, this comes in a 50-pound bag. We're all pretty comfortable with hauling a 50-pound bag around and mixing it up, 56 bags on a pallet, just like our polymeric sand, but how much do you get out of a bag?
15 linear feet.
Is that the same for every application?
Not really. It depends on really the base that you're using. So it can really fluctuate between 12 and 15 linear feet.
Right. If you're doing a permeable installation, you're going to get a little bit less coverage than you would out of a traditional base or a concrete overlay.
And if you're really trying to calculate what that means to you who is using that are using a regular edge restraint, that's really roughly about 2 sticks of edge restraint.
Right. Two sticks of edge restraint equals 1 bag, and I meet a lot of people that tell me there's no way you can mix up a bag of concrete and trowel it in place as fast as you can install 2 sticks of edge restraint.
Right.
But there are some guys out there that are pretty good with concrete edge restraint, and it can be just as fast and efficient.
Yeah, and the more that you do it, the easier and faster it becomes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is something that we're going to have you practice on a little bit, but we're going to do our best to give you a nice demonstration here, and that brings us into the mixing of Xtreme Edge.
Exciting.
So what do we need for that? Simple. 1/2 gallon of water per bag, so a 1/2 gallon to a 50-pound bag. And we're going to start mixing some material up here. It's really important to have that 1/2 gallon of water and not use 3/4 of a gallon or a whole gallon, right? That water-cement ratio is important. It ensures that we're going to have the proper strength and the proper performance of our product. Too much water makes it weaker. You're not going to be able to trowel it in place on an angle against the edge of your paving stones, so make sure you respect the proper amount of water and you'll get the best mix possible.
Yeah, for those who aren't used to mixing concrete, it may seem like you don't have enough at first, but give it time, be patient.
All right, while Dave continues to mix that up, I'm going to talk to you about the base materials that you might encounter and how Xtreme Edge can be used on any of them. So traditional base, everyone's familiar with that. Typical ICPI cross-section, permeable or open graded, Gator base, and overlays are all fantastic options for Xtreme Edge. Traditional base, hey, concrete edge works, plastic edge works. Permeable or open graded, your plastic edge restraint really does not work very well. You put those spikes into clean stone, as Dave talked about earlier, and you've got no hold. You can pull those spikes right out. They can be pushed laterally, so not a lot of support. It's really cool that you have all of those applications, and Xtreme Edge really becomes a universal edge restraint option. So we got Dave finishing up the mixing there. He's going to bring me some of this, and we're actually going to start digging into the process here for the installation. So what do we need to do? We need to pull away our bedding material. You never put edge restraint down on bedding material, whether that's plastic edge or our new Xtreme Edge. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to scrape that sand bedding layer away and make sure that our Xtreme Edge rests on the crushed compacted stone underneath. Now another step with the Xtreme Edge is to undermine the edge slightly. So we're going to come in with our trowel, and we're actually going to pull away a little bit of this sand underneath and create some void space underneath the pavers there. So Ryan, can you throw up that graphic with the shelf feature there? We've all seen pavers and paver projects where that soldier course, the outer edge of your pavers, is kind of rolling over and sinking, right, Dave?
Right.
That sinking is happening because of inadequate base prep and inadequate edge restraint. We want to make sure that our base extends at least 6 inches past the edge of our project for a pedestrian application and 12 inches past for a vehicular application. And then we're going to dig out that material to create a void space where we pack the Xtreme Edge underneath and really come up with a great shelf that supports the outer edge of our paving stones and prevents that rolling from ever happening. So I'm going to get some of this material. If Lou can get a close-up here. If you look at this stuff, it's perfect consistency. You can see that we have a very fine aggregate. The aggregate in Xtreme Edge is a number 9 stone. It's granite, it's angular, it makes the product very easy to mix, very easy to work with, and it is very strong. So you're going to get all those great features out of the aggregate choice that we have in here. So we're going to start slapping it into place. You can see all the fibers sticking out of it. We'll use our trowel to kind of push it underneath as we go. If you do happen to get any on the surface of your paving stones, you need to make sure that you clean it off. We don't want any Xtreme Edge left on top of the paving stones or natural stone. It is cementitious, and it will cause you some problems, namely staining. So we've got that put in place. I'm going to start packing it in. We want to make sure that we're coming up about, not yet, Dave. We didn't pull away that chip yet.
Oh, yes.
All right, so we're going to make sure we push this into place. We're forcing it underneath the edge where we created that shelf. We're going to come up about 1 inch from the bottom of the paver. We're going to work at about a 30-degree angle away from the paving stone itself and trowel our edge nice and smooth. So that area of the traditional base is already done. Next up, we have the chip or hybrid chip, hybrid permeable, or even true permeable installation. So what does all that nonsense mean? Means we have a 3/4 inch clean stone or a 3/4 inch crushed stone followed by chip as our setting bed instead of concrete sand. So this is that application where a plastic edge restraint with a metal spike just does not work very well. Xtreme Edge is the perfect solution for this though. So we're going to pull away the setting bed material here so that we can put our Xtreme Edge down and have it lock into our clean 3/4 underneath. Same idea, pulling a little bit of that material out from underneath the paving stone so that we get a nice shelf under here. And we'll get some Xtreme Edge dropped right in front here. So one of the cool things about Xtreme Edge is that you can compact right away, right, Dave?
That's right. Compact immediately after you install it.
So you can do the final compaction of your pavers or install polymeric sand right away. So I'm going to smooth this section of the permeable or chip setting bed pavers out. Again, coming up about 1 inch in height on the pavers there and working away at a 30-degree angle.
And try to keep as much of this concrete off the surface as possible.
Yep, you can just brush it off. Use a little rag that's wet down with some water to clean off the surface if you spill any on there. Now, if you're working with natural stone, if you have a material that's thinner than a paver, you might not want to come up 1 inch, right? What if your stone's only 1 inch thick?
Right.
So you want to come up half the height, at least half the height of that stone if it's thinner than a paver. I believe we have a couple questions. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, Ben's asking, is Xtreme Edge available now?
Xtreme Edge is available now. So any Alliance dealer,
At your local dealer.
especially Dave's dealers, because he's done a great job and
They all
gotten the
have 'em.
product out there. So available now and ready to use. Anything
And if
else,
they
Ryan?
don't have it, ask for it.
All right, Matt and Paul are asking about how to grow grass over Xtreme Edge.
All right, well, grass is a pretty tenacious thing. We're putting in a chunk of Xtreme Edge that's probably about 4 inches wide. It's coming up 1 inch on the bottom of that paver and then sloping away and downward. So you've got at least 1 inch of topsoil on top of this, and then more. Grass is pretty tenacious stuff. I mean, it grows through all the cracks in my sidewalk. Grass is going to find its way to migrate and work its way and grow up to the edge of the paving stones. And
It goes right through my driveway, my
Yeah.
gravel driveway.
and if you don't use Alliance polymeric sand in the joints, you might even get some grass growing up in your paver joints as well.
Right.
It could be a little bit more of a problem on a thinner natural stone where you don't have as much headroom for that soil and the grass, but almost every application I've seen, that grass does find a way to grow all the way up to the edge.
Yeah, most guys that I see, they'll just put the topsoil in the top and then just plant grass right in the side. It grows fine.
All right, what's next, Ryan?
Keegan's asking, what does the cost compare to Perma Edge, which is pretty expensive, and then also, is this available in Quebec as well?
All right, well, it is definitely available in Quebec. In fact, all Alliance products are manufactured in Laval, just north of Montreal. As far as pricing goes, your local dealer would be the best avenue to get you some assistance there. But Alliance strives to produce very effective products, high quality products that are also affordable and reasonably priced for you. So
Yeah, with some of the features and benefits that we're going to talk about.
all right, keep going, Ryan.
Asking, is the bag you're showing in this demo an actual product bag, or is that a sample bag?
All right, sorry, we probably should have mentioned that. This is a little sample bag. This is about 7 pounds. The real bag is 50 pounds, so we're not going to make you open 7 of these for every project that you want to work on and get 15 linear feet of coverage. Anything else?
David's asking, what's the set time?
All right, so we use a blend of different cements, including regular and fast setting. That gets us, to set up twice as fast as regular bagged concrete. You're probably looking at a pretty firm set in about 6 hours. So it's going to be solid. It's going to be pretty hard. A full cure is still going to take a couple of weeks, but you're going to have pretty solid edge restraint in a matter of hours. And like we talked about, you can do your final compaction or install your polymeric sand anytime, as soon as you install the edge, or you can come back the next day once it's hardened up and do it then. All right, questions are done for now. We'll keep going. The last application that we have here is our Gator Base application. So Gator Base gets plastic edge and a Gator screw. Could you hand me that piece, Dave?
Sure.
So we have an excellent option for Gator Base, which involves plastic edge, and the Gator screw, which anchors that plastic edge permanently to the Gator Base. But there are some die-hard contractors out there that just love concrete edge, so now there's an answer for Gator Base with a concrete edge.
Sure.
What's the first thing that we have to do? Typically, we leave 6 inches of Gator Base to go
that's-
past the edge, right?
Yeah, based on ICPI standards, you want to stay 6 inches past.
Right, but because we're developing that shelf and building that shelf into the support of our Xtreme edge, we can cut this Gator Base off flush with the paver edge. So why don't you go ahead and slice that for me? All right, let's see if we can break this off here. Usually snaps pretty easily. So we have our sand setting bed that we put our Gator Base on. Now that could have been chip. It happens to be sand in our case. So we're going to pull that sand away, and then we're going to grab a knife, and we're actually going to cut our geotextile fabric so that we can get down into the native soils a little bit here. So why don't you give me a little slice of the fabric there. All
Aaron,
right.
while you guys are doing this, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit. I got a couple questions for you.
Go ahead.
All right, so let's starting. What's the benefit of extreme edge over a rigid edge?
Well, extreme edge is a rigid edge, right?
Right.
As opposed to, I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but poured concrete curbing is certainly a very effective, fantastic edge. Plastic edge restraint works very well unless you're talking about that chip or hybrid chip installation where the spikes can't grab, or a concrete overlay where you simply can't hammer a spike into concrete.
And that seems to be the consistent concern, particularly with permeable bases, is being able to get a good, stable, cost-affordable edge restraint on that base.
Mm-hmm. And also one that fits your installation, right? There are some options on the market, but they aren't really user-friendly.
Right.
This is nice and easy. You lay your pavers. Wherever you finish with your pavers, you simply scrape that bedding material away and install your concrete edge.
Sure.
All
Another
right.
question, Mike. We have one more question.
Go ahead.
If you install on an 80 millimeter or thicker stone, do you install higher than 1 inch on the stone?
No, 1 inch is still sufficient. So if you're doing an 80 mil, 3 1/8 inch paver, coming up an inch from the bottom is still sufficient. That's enough of a bite to really hold that paver into place and prevent any lateral movement.
What's the lowest temp you would recommend this install?
Well, I'd say that typically you want to hit a sweet spot, right? You kind of want to be in that 40 to 80 degree weather for concrete to perform optimally. However, anything between a temperature above freezing and 100 degrees, the product will function and it will work.
Yeah, we say 37%, but the most 37 degrees. But the most important point is installing it above freezing temperatures.
Yep. Well, obviously you're using water to mix it. Water is involved in the product, so if it freezes, not a good thing.
Right.
All right, we're going to pull away this soil from underneath our Gator base installation. And we're going to create that same shelf by removing a little bit of that material underneath that outer edge of the Gator base. So as we pull that away, we've created a little bit of space here where we've dug down into our native soils, and we can bring in the extreme edge and pack that void space full of extreme edge underneath the Gator base, supporting the outer course of pavers or that soldier course, and ensuring that we have stability, we prevent any rotational movement, we're preventing any lateral movement, and we get a great, durable, long-lasting edge restraint here on our concrete pavers and our Gator base installation.
I believe Penelope wants to put her footprint on this.
I think we could probably allow her to do that. Go for it. What else do we have, Ryan?
Has this material been approved by ICPI to use in a permeable application for a true permeable approved job?
Well, I don't think we've specifically gone after ICPI approval for this, but ICPI doesn't have approved edge restraints as far as I know. Dave, any thoughts?
I haven't heard of it.
Right, so ICPI is simply looking for an edge restraint that prevents lateral movement. So would this be appropriate for a parking lot that's seeing triaxles go in and out of it? Probably not.
No.
You'd want a poured concrete curb, 6 inches wide, 18 inches deep. But would it be appropriate for a permeable driveway, a residential permeable driveway? 100%.
Yeah.
It's providing the function of preventing that lateral movement, preventing the edge from migrating, preventing those paver gaps from opening up. So it is definitely an appropriate permeable edge restraint system.
Yeah, what about a cobble apron? Would that be a good sufficient way to edge restrain a cobble apron?
Well, cobble aprons are tricky. Cobble aprons, we typically want those cobblestone to actually be set in mortar or concrete so that they don't move if they're using our polymeric sands for joining material. Mm-hmm. If those cobblestone are locked in place, this could be a useful addition as an edge restraint material.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, so go ahead.
Can you mix the product in a concrete mixer doing multiple bags at once with the correct amount of water per bag?
Oh, certainly. That would be a nice, fast, efficient way to do it.
That'd be ideal.
Yeah, certainly beats having Dave mix all of your extreme edge
And
up.
faster.
All right, so plenty more on extreme edge, but if you have any more questions, feel free to kick them out. We'll answer them a little bit later. You can reach out to your Alliance rep. We're always happy to come out and do demonstrations, give you a little bit of on-the-job training and let you try out the products for yourselves. We believe very strongly in the quality and performance of our products, and seeing is believing.
That's what we're here for.
All right, so real quick, we are going to roll a video on our Gator Nitro product. It's really cool air-cured resin-based joining material. So it's a new option for filling up your paver or natural stone joints. Hey everybody.
Welcome
was
back.
A pretty cool video, right?
Yeah.
It's a really neat product. It's very much different than polymeric sand as a joining material. Not necessarily better than polymeric sand, but it has a few key features and benefits that we're going to run through. First, why the name?
Interesting. Double infused nitrogen, right? It's funny how those two go together.
Right. So nitro comes from nitrogen. Nitrogen's an integral part of the packaging.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah, because it's air cured, as soon as this stuff is exposed to oxygen, it starts to react and harden up.
Right.
So if this stuff reacts in the package, it's not going to be much good once it gets to the job site, right, Dave?
Right. And that's why the packaging is so important. That's one of the things that we're really excited about in this marketplace is really the packaging in comparison to what we're seeing out in the marketplace.
Right, so we've got a great product and we want to make sure it's packaged properly. So we put it in a heavy-duty plastic bag, we inject nitrogen into that bag and vacuum seal it. Then we stick that bag in a 5-gallon bucket and we inject more nitrogen and seal that bucket off. We want to make sure that that packaging is so durable that hey, getting banged around by a forklift driver in the back of your truck doesn't damage the product, and it's ready to use when you dump it out on the job site.
I hear we have a pretty good video on a demonstration of this.
Yeah, Alliance goes to great heights and great lengths to test our product packaging, and we'll show that to you a little bit later, right? So why nitro?
No days off.
No days off anymore.
No days off. So those rainy days are no longer an excuse to cut out from work. You can actually install this in the rain. In fact, it's very helpful to install this in the rain.
Right. We'll get into that. You actually have to have a wet surface to install this. But rain or shine installs, that's fantastic. Polymeric sands, if your surface is wet, you've got to go home.
Right.
You're packing it up. You're waiting for it to dry out. You're wasting valuable time. So nitro, install rain or shine. The next cool thing is that it gets hard top to bottom, right?
Right, strength from top to bottom. In fact, I believe we have a graphic on this. It shows how strong it is from the very bottom to the very top. Very different from polymeric sand, correct?
Right. Polymeric sands typically form a crust, and that crust might be a 1/2 inch thick, it might be 1 inch thick, and it's a durable, resilient, flexible crust supported by densely packed sand underneath. But there might be some applications where you want a joint that's hard from top to bottom. Can you cue up that picture, Ryan? So if we have strength top to bottom, it's complete.
Right, with a little bit of flexibility.
A little bit, not much, which is why we want to make sure there's no movement in our pavers or stone and it's for pedestrian use only.
Sure.
But the last feature that we're going to touch on here is the permeability.
That's really the point, right?
Yeah, polymeric sands aren't permeable, right? Water runs off. That's pretty much complete runoff. Nitro sucks water in.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a little demonstration here for you. This one's pretty cool. We have a little tray that we built out of the nitro material, and you're going to be able to see the water flow right through this. So it's empty. All that water flowed right through, right? Nice and empty. That's really cool. You know, there's a lot of homeowners that hey, they want to do permeable pavement, but they don't want those chip all over the surface. So
Right.
Nitro is a great option for that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times the complaint about a typical permeable base is having to do that kind of maintenance, whereas this alleviates a lot of that.
Right. One thing to be aware of is that we're working in an outdoor environment, right?
Right.
It's dusty, it's dirty, there's mulch that washes over our projects, organic material. Gator Nitro is permeable the day it's installed, but over time it may clog up. What can you do about that?
Just clean it.
All right. After 28 days, Gator Nitro is pressure washer safe. So the cleanup, the maintenance of the permeability of those joints is really easy. Just hit it lightly with a pressure washer, remove the stuff from the pores, and it's going to maintain its permeability and last for a long time. So where are we going to use Nitro, and what is so great about it?
Well, what's great about this company is the backing, not just from the studio, but the fact that we've actually invested in a lab, so we can test our products and also test it against the competitors. So we find out some very interesting things and where we stand in the marketplace. One of them being 25% more strength in setting time.
Right. We weren't the first ones to come up with a product like this. In fact, air-cured resin-based joining materials have been around and have been very popular in Europe for decades.
Right.
It's probably a technology that we're bringing to the North America market and we're improving upon. So we're making this 25% stronger and 25% faster setting. Who doesn't want a stronger product that cures faster, right?
Right.
All right, so how long is that set time? It's about 18 hours. So if you install it, next day it's going to be hard. Low temperatures and water slow that process down. So if you have really low temperatures, it may take longer to set up. And if you have a rainfall event, it's going to basically slow the curing process, and it will just start curing again as it dries out and as that rain dissipates.
So how long would it take before you would want to power wash?
About 28 days.
28 days.
Give it a little
Wow.
bit of time to set up and maintain it, reach its full strength in
That's
order
a very
to
important
work
point.
properly.
So it's 28 days and it's power wash safe. That's a great point.
All right, any questions, Ryan?
Will Nitro cause efflorescence or hazing to the pavers?
Well, Nitro will not cause any efflorescence. Efflorescence is actually something coming out of the pavers themselves, chemicals and salts and things. Can it cause any hazing? Well, we'll touch on that in the installation process. It's not going to turn anything white, but the resins that bind Gator Nitro together can stain the surface if you don't pre-wet it properly. So we'll go through that pre-wetting process. That water will actually repel the resins from the surface and prevent any staining from occurring. Now, the one thing you do want to be aware of is that Gator Nitro has to be installed on a drainage base. Gator Nitro is permeable, so if you had a non-drainage base and you allowed water through, well, that could certainly cause some efflorescence issues.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much the bane of any existence of a base is water.
Right.
Right.
So, hey, drainage base for Nitro, we want to make sure that that water can drain through and dissipate somewhere, no concrete overlays. Any other questions, Ryan?
Can Nitro be used on clay pavers or natural stone?
Certainly. In fact, Nitro is ideal for natural stone and many clay pavers. The one thing to be careful of is the height. We need at least a 1-inch deep joint for Gator Nitro. So if you've got a 1-inch thick natural stone, you're good to go. If you have anything thinner, it might not be the best option. And as far as clay brick go, you'd have to be a little bit conscious of the surface texture, right?
Right.
A little bit of pores, that void space where that Gator Nitro might get into and be tough to wash out. Other challenge is that clay brick typically don't have spacer bars, right?
Right. Yeah. If they do, it's very small.
Right. So if you've got a very narrow joint, Gator Nitro might not be the best option either. We'll touch on it again, but you need at least a 3/16 inch or 5 millimeter wide joint for Gator Nitro to work properly. The resin that binds the material together makes it a little bit gummy and cohesive as you're actually trying to force it into the joints. So you can't get it into those super tight hairline joints like polymeric sand.
Right. So let's talk about the warranty. So it's interesting how we back our products because we really stand behind it by our warranties.
Right. We believe that we have the best products in the industry and we back them up. So Gator Nitro has a 5-year warranty. How does that stack up against our competitors?
As far as I know, I don't know of anybody that has that same warranty or any warranty at all.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So 5-year warranty on the Gator Nitro product, and we'll go through some of the tips and tricks and where you should use this product to get the best results. But I think we had a couple more questions, Ryan.
product develop in response to? Isn't polysand already very evolved product class for the paver industry?
Yes, polymeric sand's a fantastic product, and I'm not pitching Nitro to you today to replace all of your polymeric sand installations. In fact, no vehicular traffic for Nitro, so any driveways will still be polymeric sand. Your tight joints will still be polymeric sand. But this product can shine in certain applications where you might want to do a natural stone install and simulate the look of a mortar joint.
Right.
You know, this is going to allow you to actually tool the joint and give it a really nice finished surface. You've got that work, rain, or shine aspect to it, strength top to bottom, and the permeability. So all features that are a bit different than polymeric sand. Polymeric sand, 15-year warranty from the Alliance products. You know, great flexibility, durability. Some movement in interlocking concrete paver systems is always going to happen, right,
Sure.
Dave?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I hear contractors really excited about is really using this around a pool. Can you see an advantage of that?
Certainly. You know, what happens around a pool? Lots of splashing, lots of water. So this might work out really well if they're doing one of those chip or drainable bases and they can drain that water that comes off the pool right into it.
Right.
Any other questions, Ryan?
A lot of them are going to get answered when you do your demo.
All right, so we got a lot of questions that probably touch on installation, so we'll keep plowing away here and get to that demonstration that you're all waiting to see. First, though, we got to talk about where we're going to use this, right? So traditional base, open graded, and Gator base. But open graded is really where this would shine, right?
Yeah, that's really where the application is most needed, probably.
Right, so typically polymeric sands in open graded bases can be a problem because you have to vibrate and compact until that sand chokes itself off in that open graded aggregate.
Mm-hmm.
With Nitro, no compactions required. It's going to harden up from top to bottom, so we don't have to worry about that choking off effect nearly as much. So really ideal for open graded aggregate. And that's one of those applications where you might choose Nitro over polymeric sand, the open graded aggregate application.
Yeah, the real key point is to have make sure that you have a drainage base versus a non-drainage base.
Yep. And then we talked about that joint width minimum, so at least a 3/16 inch or 5 millimeter wide joint. You can get it in a tighter joint, but it's going to be frustrating. So tighter joint, use polymeric sand, you know, up to that 3/16 inch mark, and once you get beyond that, you can choose whatever suits the scenario best.
And how wide would you say you can go?
You can go up to 2 inches wide.
Wow.
So
Right.
I've got some tests that are way wider than 2 inches, but hey, 2 inches is a pretty wide joint in the hardscape industry. I don't know why you'd really have something beyond that.
Right, right.
All right, so we're going to start talking about the installation process here, but let's touch on these lids real quick, Ryan. Can you give us that overhead shot?
Really, for any of you who are forgetting, who are on a job site and you've forgotten everything that we just talked about, we certainly go through a lot of pains to remind you of that. So on this lid, you will see a label that tells you right off the bat, make sure that the surface is wet. Okay?
That's pretty important, right? We talked about how those resins can cause staining if the surface isn't wet, so we're going to tell you to pre-wet that surface. Now, how much water?
To make sure that the whole surface is covered with water.
Right, we're going to wet everything down. You can't use too much water, so soak the pavers down, soak your tools down, soak the side of the house, the foundation, the deck nearby. This stuff is strong.
Right.
And if it starts to bond onto something that wasn't wet down, it's going to be pretty darn hard to get off.
Yeah, anything that can be affected that might be in contact with the nitrogen.
Right, so your next point is that Gator Nitro is an extremely strong and rigid joining material. Please ensure that there is absolutely no stone or paver movement prior to installing Gator Nitro. You don't want to see any cracking, right? Cracking may occur if you don't have stability of your stone and pavers. This stuff's so hard. It's really strong and
Right.
rigid. It's incredible. I mean, you can smash this stuff with a hammer and it doesn't break apart. But it can crack because it's brittle. So if you have any movement in your pavers or your stone, you might get hairline cracks along the edge of your pavers. Not the end of the world, but why not make sure your pavers or stone are stable beforehand, eliminate that potential for cracking.
Sure, just a good reminder to make sure that you take great care in compacting that base.
And that's a big part of the reason why it's for pedestrian use only, which is the third point on that label. Any movement, and in a paver driveway, you're inherently going to have some movement when the car runs over that, right?
Right, absolutely.
So we want to make sure that you're happy with the product, it performs as intended, use it for pedestrian uses only. Movement will be minimal enough that you won't see that cracking occur. Take a quick minute to point out these lids. Very easy to spot what color they are, right? We have beige, we have black, and we have gray. So the colors are a little bit different than our polymeric sands, right, Dave?
Yeah, a little bit darker. I believe it's the resins that really affect the colors. Is
Right,
that
so the raw materials, the gradation is the same. The color is going to be a little bit different because that resin just tends to darken it slightly.
Right.
So without any further ado, we're going to jump into our installation. So let's see one of those pails, Dave. All right, so hold that pail down. I'm going to snake this bag out here. And we have our Gator Nitro product. So heavy-duty plastic bag. We have to go ahead and slice this open, and we will start installing it, right?
Right.
Hold on a second. What do these pavers look like? This natural
They
stone's
look
pretty
a little
dry.
too dry.
So we're going to wet everything down first, right? We're going to wet down our stone surface. We're going to make sure that it's soaking wet. We're going to wet down the sides of our table here, which could be the sides of your house, your deck. We're going to wet down the tools that we use. And what tools do we use?
Well, we can use a broom over here, or we can use a squeegee, which we have
All
right
right.
here.
Any benefit?
I prefer the broom, particularly on textured surfaces. It's a little easier for me to get the nitro sand in there.
Right.
Although there are some that like to use the squeegee, as it's a little bit more complete in taking the sand off the tops of the surface.
Yeah, so if you have a very smooth surface, you can really use either one. Textured surface, that broom may work a little bit better in terms of moving the product around. So now that our surface is completely wet down, I'm going to open up this Gator Nitro material and pour some out on the surface. So you can see, it looks a little bit darker than polymeric sand, and it is a little bit stickier and gummier. The best way to install it is really with two people. You know, one person watering it down while the other person starts to broom it or squeegee it across the surface. Work a few different angles. You know, 45-degree direction to the joints tends to work pretty well to make sure that it gets pushed into all of the joints there.
So again, what is the step that you can skip when you install this?
Compaction, right?
Oh.
No compaction necessary.
A lot of time savings there.
Definitely. So we're going to push this all around, fill up our joints. Remember, 3/16 or 5 millimeter minimum and 2-inch maximum. Need at least 1 inch of joint depth in order for the Gator Nitro to perform properly. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. We're going to get our surface cleaned off. So one cool thing about the Gator Nitro is that it's rainproof as soon as you install it. We're using a fair amount of water to do our installation here, and it's not going to affect the integrity or strength of our joints. In fact, that water helps lubricate it all, force it down into the joints, and it's really an integral part of the installation process. Now, these joints look pretty good, right?
How do we make it look better?
Well, not necessarily better, but if you did want to come in and actually tool the joints with a pointing tool, you could. You know, you can come in and actually give it a really slick, finished look, almost like you came in and had a mason mortar all this stuff in place. Now, why don't you flood that surface for us? Let's stay on that shot, Ryan. Flood that out for us. And you can watch that water just suck down into the joint. It's really cool, that permeability.
See it drop right down?
Yep. All right, I see we have a little bit of material left over from our install. Do we have to throw that away?
Absolutely not. We can keep it.
All right, so any excess material is quite easy to save. We scoop it up from the job site, we stick it back in the 5-gallon bucket that it came from, and cover it with water. We need about 2 inches of water covering it. That water will prevent the oxygen from getting to it, and we can use it for about 4 weeks, so you'll be able to use it on your next project.
Excellent.
So a really cool product, right? Not meant to replace polymeric sands, but another option, another tool available to you guys. Great features and benefits that work in the rain, strength top to bottom, and permeability. Perfect for those chip installations. Do we have any questions, Ryan?
Yeah, we've got a bunch.
We'll run through a few of them here.
All right. We'll start with this one. Once you open a pail bag, how long before it sets, and can you seal the bag to prevent it from setting?
All right, well, we think we kind of answered that. Your best bet would be to dump that material in the 5-gallon bucket and cover it with water. You know, sealing that bag might be possible, but if you have any oxygen inside there, if air is still leaking in there, it's going to start hardening the product. So you want to make sure that you can put it in that pail and cover it with water. You've got a pretty decent working time with this. You know, you got a couple hours to work with it before it starts to set up and get hard. So you know, you're not going to be pressed for time as you're actually installing a job.
Can you use nitro on 80 millimeter and 100 millimeter pavers?
You most certainly can. Nitro is going to definitely harden up at least 2 3/8 of an inch thick, top to bottom. If you get into a thicker paver, it may not harden up top to bottom, or it may just take longer to harden up top to bottom. It's just a function of how well that oxygen is getting into the material to start that reaction to harden things up. The other thing to be aware of with an 80 mil or 100 mil paver is that it's going to be harder to fill it from top to bottom with a tight joint. So 3/16 might be the minimum joint on a 60 millimeter paver, 2 3/8. If you're going to a 100 millimeter paver, I'd personally want a slightly wider joint. So maybe, getting into the 5/16 or 3/8 of an inch joint width for a paver that thick. Go ahead, Ryan.
If nitro sand has to have a drainage base, can you use it on Gator base as you've demonstrated on the table?
Yes, it is definitely a great product to use on Gator base. Gator base is going to evacuate all the water through itself, through the panel, has both lateral and through drainage built into it. So as long as you're allowing some means for water to evacuate from underneath the Gator base, then go for it.
I don't think anybody's been able to stump you yet.
Not yet, but we'll see. What's next?
How does the nitro handle freeze-thaw cycles and ice melt products?
All right, well, it should be ice melt resistant. We haven't found any ice melt products that cause a problem with it, but freeze-thaw is always going to damage outdoor hardscape materials, right? That's part of the reason why we don't want this installed on a concrete overlay. If Gator Nitro is on a concrete overlay and water goes into it, there's nowhere for that water to go. It freezes and thaws, expands, and it starts causing problems with the pavers and with the nitro. As long as you have a drainage base underneath, not going to cause any problems. All right, I think we're more or less wrapped up there. Two exciting new products from Alliance, that Xtreme Edge, fiber reinforced structural concrete edge. It's the best in the industry. You should definitely consider trying it. If you're used to using regular bag concrete, I think you'll be surprised by the strength and the ease of installation that we get out of that Xtreme Edge. Nitro, fantastic new joining option, so definitely something worth considering as well. Back to that packaging, though, real quick. You want to roll that video on the packaging, show everybody how tough this stuff is?
Hey, Mike, what are you doing up there?
I just thought I'd come up here and test out the durability of our new Nitro buckets.
It's the best packaging in the industry.
I sure hope so.
How high are you?
I'm about 45 feet up in the air.
Jeez. Well, let's test it out.
All right. Gator Nitro, hail, test in 3, 2, 1.
Holy cow, it made it!
That doesn't look like it even cracked.
Unbelievable! You know what else is cool? Because of the double infused nitrogen, doesn't matter if with bag popped on the inside, it's still protected. Let's check it out. Unbelievable! Wow, Mike! This stuff is packed unbelievably well.
Can't wait to try it out.
I always got a kick out of that video. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a little bit goofy, but we really do crazy things like that to test out our product. In fact, right outside Gator Studio, we've got test beds out there buried underneath the snow where we're testing out our products. We shoot things with fire hoses. We make sure that our packaging, our products are top of the line, second to none. So that's pretty cool. I believe we had a few more questions on the Nitro, right, Ryan?
Yep. After installation with how hard the nitro seals, what's the process needed to replace a cracked or broken stone?
All right, so it is a very, very durable product. You're not going to be pressure washing the joints out like you would with a polymeric sand to remove it and reinstate it. But it is brittle enough that you can chisel it out. So a screwdriver and a hammer, chisel, you will be able to break out chunks of any affected area, remove it, and replace it. You probably won't see a ton of that. The cracking that occurs doesn't really cause crack in the nitro itself, laterally across a joint. It's typically along the edge of the paving stone or the natural stone itself.
That's actually one of the beauties of actually replacing any sand that's in the joints is you can actually replace it with nitro the same day. You don't have to wait for it to dry.
Yeah, that's true. If you pressure washed out old joints, you could come back in and install nitro the same day.
Right.
What else do we have, Ryan?
With the large amount of water that you use to install Nitro, would it negatively affect the Xtreme Edge if both were roughly used at the same time?
Yes, while you can install polymeric sand immediately after installing the Xtreme Edge, you would want to wait a little while after installing Xtreme Edge to put your Nitro in. We do use a lot of water. You'd see a lot of water running off the lower end of the slope of your paver project, and that would start to wash away some of the cream from your Xtreme Edge. It's not going to destroy the product. It's not going to cause it to, lose all of its strength and crumble down the road, but it would wash off that nice, smooth, creamy finish. Best to wait. Hey, if you can wait 6 hours, come back in and do your Nitro install. That would be ideal.
That's a very good question. Very astute.
All right, so we're going to try to get back to all these other questions. We don't want to keep you too long right here, but from everyone here at Alliance and from Gator Studio, we appreciate you tuning in. We are doing a series of shows for 10 weeks. This is our third one, so we've got quite a few more coming. If you can, go on to our education portal, alliancegator.com/education. You can see all of our pre-recorded shows. You can see what's coming up next. You can sign up for text alerts. Can you throw that graphic up, Ryan? Signing up for text alerts is a great thing, right, Dave?
Absolutely, I've done it. I've already gotten my my text messages.
So we'll make sure we don't send you too many text messages, right? We'll send you one a week, let you know what's coming up. We aren't going to blow up your phone. I'll make sure of that. We really appreciate your business, and thanks for joining us today.